It's pretty hilarious that Fauci still believes people are going to make decisions based on his guidance. And speaking of families and vaccination status, I wanted to touch on this new report. The largest health system in Louisiana has just announced it'll start fining employees if they're married to an unvaccinated person. Starting in 2022, employees for Ochsner Health will be charged $200 per month or $100 per pay period if their spouse or partner is unvaccinated. Select a different health plan outside of their offerings. But I have a feeling this is not the last time we're going to see companies fining employees like this. Join me now, co-founder and chief strategist at GDP Advisors, Seth Denson. Seth, thank you so much for joining me. So Seth, obviously a little bit to unpack here in this introduction, but first I'll start with Dr. Fauci and his Christmas warning that it's like too early to tell if you can celebrate Christmas. Then he gets blasted for that, and then he comes out with like a new statement that he was taken out of context. He's just kind of all over the place. At this point, he's gotten it wrong and has changed his mind so many times. I'm not really sure who's still taking him serious. Like obviously he has his fan base, those people that have the Fauci candles at home and whatnot. But the rest of us people like me, I'm not listening to Fauci.
Yeah, God love Anthony Fauci, right? I mean, he's like what we say about the weather here in Texas. Give him 5 minutes, he'll change his tune. And I guess that's what's happening here based on his audience, right? He says one thing, gets social media backlash, turns around, flips it away another way, hoping to kind of reset the tone. This is the same we're hearing about masks, vaccines, people vaccinated can't contract it. Oh, wait a minute, they can, but they're less likely to end up in the hospital, but they will end up in the hospital, but they may not die. But, you know, I mean, listen, we got so much misinformation here at some point. We just got to say, I know he's trying. I'm sure he's trying, but he just doesn't know. And so maybe let's take our cues from, I don't know, Santa Claus, because maybe we'll get more accurate information.
Yeah. What did you think of this, the employees that if their spouse isn't vaccinated, that they could be punished for that? I mean, how is that even legal? That's definitely next level craziness.
Well, so interestingly enough, we've been looking at this since it came out because, at GDP, we do advise a lot of employers and we're getting a lot of questions about this. And I think that, quite frankly, it might be legal. This is one of those gray areas, but as long as it's non-discriminatory against what's called a bona fide class, which means that employers can set a bona fide class, which is people with spouses on their health insurance plan. And as such, ERISA gives that some protections. And we see this right now with like tobacco usage, for example. If my spouse uses tobacco, then I can be surcharged for health insurance. The caveat here is that an employee could just say, I don't want the health insurance, and they don't have to pay the fine. But again, they lose the health insurance, which is why a lot of people go to work. Here's the other unintended consequence of this, though, and this is really interesting. We're in a tight labor market, and especially in the healthcare community. And so my guess is that if more hospital systems start to try to adopt this, people are going to go find hospital systems, and other hospitals are going to say, we're not going to adopt it. Bring your work over here. We'll take it.
Yeah, now I'm kind of worried that this is going to become an ugly trend, and obviously insurance companies think that they're going to do well on this. But I mean, are there extra charges for other people who are
do put certain mandates around, let's say, BMI or high blood pressure, which they can do, again, in that bona fide class. They also have to make reasonable accommodations, and they have to give a path to health. In other words, if you have BMI and you have the ability to get healthier, they have to provide you with the resources to do that. So that's the caveat here, but nobody knows on a vaccine. This is uncharted territory, and I got to think that the courts ultimately will be the ones that decide on this one.
Yeah. No, it just seems so unfair, and it's such a great expense for those. And as you pointed out, a lot of people going to work, and part of having a job is having access to health insurance, affordable health insurance. And so that becomes very problematic. Really quickly, we did see that there's been initial jobless claims. They're on the rise, and it was unexpected. Why is this? Because you'll go to businesses and you see everywhere, like everyone's hiring, right? But then all of a sudden, there's more jobless claims. So it's kind of confusing.
Yeah, this was one report. I'm anxious to see what happens this week. Is this a one data report, or is this a trend? And then there's a lot of question of all these mandates that are going into play. Did this change the trajectory of people saying, hey, maybe I won't go to work. Maybe I'm going to change jobs. Now, again, the law's been pretty clear from a federal level. If your employer requires a mandate and you don't do it, you may not be eligible for unemployment. But state law often will supersede that, and states can set their own parameters. So it's a lot of ambiguity. So there might be some people who are now unemployed filing because of vaccination mandates. So, I just don't know. I'll be anxious to see the jobs report this week.
Yeah, me too. Well, Seth, thanks for breaking it all down. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Steph.